which is excellent. Thank you. I'm just going to share my screen at the moment because what I want to do, the first link that I've shared is to this document that we have on the RDA's web platform, which is all about the basics of the RDA for newcomers. So a lot of what we will discuss in the next half an hour or so will actually be captured by this document. So it's probably a good resource for you to have. So we've got a bit about the RDA's vision, mission, guiding principles, a bit about individual membership, and your entry point into the RDA. So I'm going to stop sharing so that you don't just see my screen, but obviously that is a good document and a good starting point for you. We will have some time, hopefully, at the end of the session for you to ask any further questions. Now, the first question that we received was quite a hard one in some senses to answer, which is what is the RDA? Because the RDA is quite a complex community and an organisation, but essentially it's a bottom-up and community-driven initiative. So we provide a neutral global platform to enable data sharing and reuse, and it's been around since 2013. So we celebrated our 10th anniversary last year, and as you'll probably gather, there's a lot of different things going on. We've currently got over 14,000 members from 150 different countries. We've got organisational members and we've got community groups. And the idea is that we want to come together to solve various different problems, if you like, or issues around data sharing and reuse that spans the technological, geographical and disciplinary boundaries. So you will find a lot of information that we have on our web platform. I also want to mention that we are transiting at the moment to a new web platform. So the content is currently being migrated. So a lot of the links that we'll share throughout the session today they'll be available for you, but please do bear with us. If there are things you can't find, you can also reach out to us. You'll also see that we have 6 guiding principles of openness, consensus, inclusivity, harmonization, and we're community driven, and we're also non-profit and technologically neutral. So I don't know if anybody has any questions about the RDA. If you are new, who here is not an RDA member currently? Anybody new to the RDA entirely, not yet a member? Okay.
Looks like everybody's joined.
Yeah, it looks like it. That's good. So there is a link actually in the chat as well if you haven't yet registered for you to be able to join, and that will take you through the process. So the next question that we have, I'm just going to post it in the chat here, is how is the RDA structured? This is another quite complicated question to answer, but essentially you can think of the RDA really, I think, within 2 streams. So the first one is about the work of the RDA. So this is achieved by the global volunteer community through 3 mechanisms, essentially. So we have the working groups, which have a finite lifespan of 12 to 18 months. And there is sort of like a concrete, tangible output, recommendation or output at the end of that. We also have the interest groups, which are slightly broader in scope. They have an indefinite lifespan, can go on for as long as the topic of interest is active and alive within the community. And then the third type of mechanism is a community of practice. We currently only have 1 community of practice, which is about agricultural data. So it's called Improving Global Agricultural Data. That's been around, I believe, since around 2020. And a community of practice is broader in scope, again, larger than an interest group, and has a disciplinary focus and can be seen as sort of like an umbrella group that's linking groups within the RDA with external organisations and initiatives around that discipline. So the work of the RDA is driven by this global community, and these groups are responsible for creating these flagship recommendations and outputs that are openly available for adoption and reuse by anybody, anywhere in the world. And then the other side of the Research Data Alliance, which is the side that's possibly more complicated for newcomers, is the business of the RDA. So we have various different governance bodies. So myself, Irina, and Bridget are members of the RDA Secretariat. We are this lean managerial layer, if you like, that is trying to support the community work and the groups. So taking them through the process of setting up groups and having recommendations and outputs endorsed. but we also have the RDA Council, which is overseeing the strategic direction of the Research Data Alliance. We have the Regional Advisory Board, and we have Francoise, I see, in this call as well. I see Francoise, sorry, you've just turned your camera off. But we have the various RDA regions that are bringing their national and regional perspective. We also have the Organisational Assembly and the Organisational Advisory Board, and they're bringing their institutional and organisational perspective as well to the Research Data Alliance. And we also have the Technical Advisory Board, and they are looking at sort of the socio-technical side of things, helping to support the groups and making sure that the work that is done is reviewed and is impactful. And aside that, we also have the Funders Forum. So all of these different boards are working together. And as I say, I don't want to bombard you with too much information, but if you want to read more about the governance of the Research Data Alliance, you can do that by looking at the various different pages on the web platform. And I don't know if there are any links to share there.
Yeah, I was just looking to get one in.
But maybe we can try to pop some in the chat. And then I'll take the third question, and I will hand over to one of my colleagues, so it's not just me talking all the time. But there was also this question on how you can get involved in the RDA as well. So we do have different types of membership. We have the individual membership, we have the organisational membership, and we have the regional membership. But I am just going to focus on individuals for now, because I think that might be most applicable to everybody here. So in case you don't know and you're not yet a member, individual membership is completely free of charge for anybody that wants to join, and that permits you access to all areas of the RDA web platform, and that means that you can join any group that you want to that is of interest to you. And it means that you will also receive regular updates from the RDA Secretariat. We have a monthly newsletter that goes out, and we give you a roundup of all things associated with the Research Data Alliance. So you'll hear about any new groups or any recommendations and outputs that way. And it's a chance for you to keep updated on any events and plenaries. And I think we can also share in the chat as well. So there's a really fun blog that one of our community members that I think our community members drafted that I think would be quite useful and fun for you to read, which is all about navigating the universe of the Research Data Alliance. And I think it really is a universe, because there's a lot of different things going on within there. But what you can do is look through that, and there's a quiz at the end, which will allow you to see, how you can get involved, because you can do really as little or as much as you want to. So we have what we call a lost puppy, which is somebody that comes in as a newcomer and they really don't know where to start, and they're kind of overwhelmed by all the different things that's going on, and that's completely normal. But there's also window shoppers, and you might be a window shopper where you just want to join a few sessions at plenaries, or read through a few different recommendations and outputs, and so you're sampling things. There's also the secret admirer, so somebody who is maybe lurking somewhere in the shadows and just observing what's going on. There's the social butterfly, so this is where you might be more active, you want to join the networking events that are available, and you want to help facilitate community building. There's also the cat herders, so these are people who are maybe the working groups, interest groups, chairs, and they're sort of driving the work and so on. I won't go through all of them, but essentially what I'm trying to get across here is that you can get involved in whatever capacity you have and want to, and we understand that this is a volunteer community. So, we all have different capacities to be able to contribute to the Research Data Alliance. We've already shared some links on how to join, so I won't go through that now, but there is also a link on the value of the Research Data Alliance for you as an individual. So you can contribute to the debates and discussions that go on throughout the plenaries, and also events outside. You can read through recommendations and outputs and take them back to your own organisations and implement them. It's an opportunity, and I personally had this experience myself. I joined the RDA as a PhD researcher in 2019, and it allowed me to really expand my own professional network and meet other people that could help me. And so I think that this is a really good opportunity for individuals to learn more about what's going on in different parts of the world and boost your own CV or resume. And so I just think it's then I've got a point here to share on gaining experience, and I think that's something we can all share as part of this community. Again, you're here because you're in the plenary, so that's another way that you can get involved. And we also have various different groups, over 100 different groups that you can join, either as an observer or as a more active member. So I hope that gives you some flavour of how you can get involved and the kinds of involvement and activity that you can undertake. I'm going to pass on to Bridget. I think you can answer the next question, Bridget, on creating RDA groups.
I'll take that, Connie. Yeah, if you want to put that question in the chat. So how do I create, this was another question that came through, how do I create an RDA group and recruit members? Okay, so that's 2 questions in one. So first of all, how to create the group, that's quite simple. Once you're an RDA member, okay, on the website, there is an area, Connie's going to put in the links, thank you, about how to initiate a group. But obviously you would need to know if it's a working group, an interest group, or a community of practice that you want to set up. So you can find the different sections to get all the information about what is required, okay, for each of those groups. If it's a working group, you have to present what's called a case statement, okay, and you have to have a minimum of 2 co-chairs. And with an interest group, it's a charter, and there are templates which show you explain exactly what is required to be able to submit a request to start a new group. And then it's taken through the endorsement process. There's a month of community review, so all community members can comment on your case statement or charter. If it's a community of practice, then that would be called an agreement. And then it goes through the boards, so the technical advisory board and the council for final endorsement. Okay. As far as recruiting members, I mean, these groups are started, they may start actually from a birds of a feather, okay? So at these plenary sessions, whether it's virtual or in person at the networking sessions, this is where a lot of ideas are started. People come together and they have ideas and they exchange ideas and they realize they might have a potential group. Okay, and it may well start from a birds of a feather, and you'll see at this plenary session we have quite a few of those going on. And that's kind of an initial discussion to see if there is enough interest and substance, shall we say, to form a new group, whether it's an interest group or a working group. So that could be a starting point for you, is to submit a birds of a feather session at a next plenary. And then recruiting members, that would be through the networking sessions at plenaries, or just getting involved in the other groups as well. Once you become a member, you can join other groups. So looking through the website and the group areas and to see if there's anything of interest there, which might trigger some new ideas that you want to set up. And then slowly, as you get to know new members, new people, new things start to happen. Okay. I don't think anybody wants to add anything there. Any of our older and regular members, feel free to say anything. I can see Francoise is putting a few things in the chat. Oh, yes. Thanks, Alex. Do you want to say something about the Tiger or Ryan?
Yeah, sure.
Tiger support. Thanks.
I can start. So, hi, everyone. I'm Alex Terivalta. I'm Director of Operations at the European Office of the RDA. And I have here in the room Ryan O'Connor and Athina Papadopoulou, my colleagues from the European Office and RDA Tiger. So, and please jump in after if you'd like to add anything. So RDA Tiger is a European Commission funded project coordinated by the European Office, and we provide different types of support to the RDA community, aiming to lower the barrier for engaging with the RDA processes and navigating. So we provide help with finding co-chairs, finding memberships, creating case statements, submitting case statements, and then after you initiate your working group, we also help with meeting facilitation throughout the lifetime of the working group, output support when you reach the end of the group lifetime, and various other communications and third-party grant support. So Athina and Ryan, would you like to add anything to that?
Hi, everybody. No, just the only thing to add to that was would be that even though the project, the RDA Tiger project, is funded by Horizon 2020, it's a European Commission funded project, we are offering the Tiger support to all groups. So regardless of the location of co-chairs or members, that we're offering support to groups, so obviously kind of worldwide, with the RDA groups sort of by default being kind of global entities.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Ryan. That's working groups. Okay, Tiger Support is offering only for work those people that want to set up working groups. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Bridget.
Just
Sorry,
a
Connie,
final thing on that. No, that was me. Hi, sorry, Bridget.
Athena, please, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that we have an open call for applications, and I set the link with more information, and the deadline for the next review of the application is set for May 31st. And I guess that completes the
No,
Tiger.
that's excellent. Thanks very much, Athena. Yeah, so if anybody here is actually, whoever put that question in the chat, maybe that could be of use to you if you want to get some support there. Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll pass on the next question. So the next question we had was about grants for students and early career scientists. Irina, I think you're going to say something about that.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Bridget. Well, as many of you know, the RDA is a non-profit organization. However, as you have found out from my colleagues, we have lots of opportunities here and a lot of value. And I have a privilege, as I mentioned, to plan and deliver all the plenaries. The RDA currently doesn't have any grants, doesn't offer any grants, although in the past it used to be in the place. However, apart from grants, there are lots of opportunities which early career researchers or scientists can jump on. So one of them is the plenary meeting. If those who are new to the plenary meetings, these are biannual large community meetings, which are held twice a year. And we have the registration fees, and we always consider those who are students or low and middle income countries attendees. And therefore, the registration fees are always lowered. We try to attract more and support more attendees from different parts of the world, especially focusing on low and middle income countries, and also those who are from Southern Hemisphere as well. Other than that, you might have heard that for the first time in the plenary history, for the 22nd plenary meeting, we have launched the Equality and Diversity Program for Plenaries, EDPP. And so the program allows us to support those attendees from low and middle income countries who are not in the position to pay the registration fees. So that barrier is usually on the way to some of the attendees, and we have had a fantastic response from our community who supported us by purchasing additional tickets, which we granted to 8 people so far from different parts of the globe. I think there were some from Ethiopia, Ecuador, Rwanda as well, and parts of India. So the support of our generous community is very much appreciated. And I should probably also mention that the RDA membership is free, as Connie and Bridget have mentioned. So everyone is welcome. And once you join a variety of groups, this is your free pass to a variety of meetings and networking opportunities. And a particular group maybe that I should mention to join for early career researchers is called SAME Early Career Researchers Group, who welcomes those new to join their support, research, and obviously regular meetings as well. I'm not sure if I have answered that question fully. Hopefully I have. However, if any of my colleagues would like to add anything else, please feel free.
I think you've provided a good summary, Irina. Hopefully we have time at the end. I really want to make sure we have time for any other questions that are coming in. So we'll move on to the next one, which we were asked, which is how can I make the most of recommendations and outputs that relate to my interest? And this is a really good question because actually we have, you know, probably hundreds of different recommendations and outputs, at least 75 different flagship outputs as well. So one thing I want to draw your attention to is the catalogue that we have on the new web platform, which we are still working on at the moment. but that actually provides you with all the different types of outputs, so recommendations and supporting outputs, and also via the web platform you can read adoption stories and also adoption reports, and if they're not available at the moment, they certainly will be in due course. So the way that you can do this is you can filter by different output type. You can also filter recommendations by the plenary pathways. So we have 12 different pathways that you can navigate to one of interest and then see which groups and outputs are relevant to that. You can also look by technology focus, by region, and also by language, and we're hoping to have various different outputs translated into different languages for you as members. So the other thing is, if you want to adopt an output, we do have a form on the web platform where you can express your interest in the adoption of recommendations and outputs, but possibly the simplest and easiest way is to either contact myself as Community Development Manager, and I'll also drop my email into the chat if there's something particular you're looking for, or if you want to try and adopt a recommendation and output, or to go directly to the chairs of the group that have created that recommendation and output. So there are various different ways you can do that. And we do often try to provide opportunities at plenaries and things like that to talk a bit about the adoption and impact of recommendations and outputs. So you can hear firsthand experiences of how community members have actually implemented various different outputs in their own organizational and institutional contexts. So hopefully that gives you a bit more information, but I would encourage you and invite you to contact me if you do have questions about how to adopt certain RDA outputs. We'll move on to the next question. So I think we only have one or two more, hopefully short questions now. But this one is about organizational membership. Bridget, if you want to just answer that one.
Yes, I'll take that. Yes, I'm actually Secretariat Liaison to the Organisational Assembly, which is all the representatives from the organisation and affiliate members that we have. Okay, and we have around 80 at the moment. At the end of the month, the membership directory will be going live on the new website, so you'll be able to see what members we do have. Okay, so I like to say that being an organisational member and the representative and attending the organisational assembly meetings once a month, it gives you a front seat to what's going on at the RDA. So you're really kept up to date with all the RDA activities. And it's an opportunity for you to look at, with the other organisational members, the open science and data challenges, and to compare what's going on there. So it's like an international collaboration within the RDA platform. You can bring your organization's perspective on open science and what's going on globally in your community. You can also help to influence the direction of the RDA because feedback from the organizational assembly is taken back to the organizational advisory board and then towards the end to council as well. So it's quite an important organisation. In the chat, thank you, Connie, there is a PDF summary of how to join, both how to join and what the benefits are if you want to become an organisational member. And yes, please do ask any other questions if you want. And so the last question before we open up to everybody else, this was, what are the mechanisms used by the RDA to support academic networks in open science? Well, I would say there, so apart from the organisational assembly, so the organisational members coming together and supporting the academic networks there, we also have what's called the CoData RDA Schools of Research Data Science. Okay, and they organise schools around the world. One does happen yearly in Italy, but then they also take place virtually and in person around the world, and they are teaching foundational data science skills to early career researchers in low and middle income countries. So do take a look at their website to see what's going on there. I think they have a school being organised, in fact I know they have a school being organised in Costa Rica before and after our next plenary 23. So do have a look at what's been happening there. So that might help to answer that question.
Thank you, Bridget.
Okay, I think that's the end, Connie, of the questions we received.
It is. Yeah, so hopefully we answered them all. Françoise?
we do meetings of this kind in RDA France, and I would like to pass a message, because we do a meeting after the plenary with the people who have attended the plenaries, and the newcomers, their message, and I think I can share it with you, it's difficult, because there are so many things in parallel, you don't know what to choose. You don't understand what is going on because you don't know the vocabulary. We try to help people to do that, but it's not easy to participate in a plenary. But I can tell you that the same people come back for the next plenary, and their evaluation of participation is, it's difficult, but it's really worth. So I would like to pass you this message. So don't be ashamed if you find it's difficult, it is, but it's worth.
Thank you, Francoise. Yeah, I think that's very true. Yeah, at the beginning it is, because there's so many different things going on in the RDA, so it can be, you know, can be quite overwhelming. But I think just getting involved and asking questions, yeah, when you're in the sessions, use the Zoom chat as well to ask, you know, one of the Secretariat members if we're in that session, just to, you know, ask us anything, because you're not alone. Everybody's been newcomers, including us.
I still feel like I am.
Yeah,
in lots of ways.
At times, yeah.
Because things change as well very quickly. But does anybody have any questions for us based on what we've discussed so far? Or maybe you want to share your own challenges or what you've enjoyed so far? It would be good to hear from somebody else. Is everybody finding the plenary easy so far? Oh, Bruno, great, go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Thanks for the description and the explanation. It's a bit scary when you say that you are still a newcomer. I'm joking, of course. I have a very nice question. I see that François told me that there is a group about the global open research commons. And so somehow what is the interplay between this large, very broad group and the other more focused working package or working groups? Because when you have large commons, and then small one, you should have some interconnection, interdependency. And so I was wondering how the interfaces are made.
I don't know if you know the GORC well, but I do. So you can answer, but I can help if you wish, Connie.
Well, Francoise, you're welcome. You're welcome to go ahead.
Yes,
yeah, that's fine.
I think that the GORC, it's very focused. It's not covering everything. It just has the focus aim to describe what a global open research common can be. So I encourage you to attend their meeting next week. You will see what it is about.
Okay.
And maybe I can just add as well, because I am also a member of one of the groups that is kind of collaborating with the GORC group at the moment, which is, I think, where you were going, Bruno, with the question of, like, you've got obviously groups working on quite large and ambitious topics within research data, and then you've got groups that are working on more niche and specific topics, right? And there is an interplay between them. And what we're seeing now, especially with the GORC group, because there's the GORC interest group, so I'll share a few links in the chat, and then there are also now working groups that are sort of branching off from the GORC interest group as well to focus on those specific areas. So I think there is a session during the plenary on the health research data commons aspect. So it's now starting to branch out into more specific sub areas. So the beauty of the RDA is that actually some of these groups can focus on very large domain agnostic topics, but we also have so many groups that are focusing on, you know, smaller but equally important topics. And I just want to also raise, Graham, you've got your hand raised, but Graham, you've just started a group on the salmon research data management, looking at different things there. So that's so niche. But the beauty is that we can offer this platform for sort of any ideas to come through. So I'll share some links, Bruno, that relate to the GORC interest group. There's also the GORC International Model Working Group, and there are now other groups that are starting to spin off from GORC. So you might see how there are some relations. Graham.
Yeah, thanks. I was just wanting to add some input in terms of from my perspective, but what is GORC? I've not come across that before.
I've just put a link in the chat to their interest group. So it's Global
Right,
Open
okay.
Research Commons.
Excellent.
Francois can explain a bit more about the actual different aspects of an open research commons, but they look at like the human aspects, technological aspects. I'll share with Francois.
Yeah. So that wasn't actually my question. That just came up when you guys were talking about it. So yeah, I just wanted to, because you kind of invited people to share their experience. So yeah, I'm quite new to RDA. And interesting, the reason that I got involved in RDA was very selfish reasons. I wanted to create, as Connie mentioned, an interest group for salmon data mobilization. So I work with salmon researchers in the fish. And it's a very kind of disparate, it's a very wide international community, Northern Hemisphere focused, but very international. But there's lots of silos, lots of different people doing the same thing, but slightly differently. So RDA seemed like the perfect place to create an interest group. So I have just gone through the process of writing a charter with my colleagues from Pacific side and I'm Atlantic side. And we'll just submit that. And I would say the process has been quite easy in terms of the actual submission and things like that. Obviously writing the charter is tough, but it was a group. I've got a good group to work with, and we got through the template quite efficiently. Finding chairs is going to be the next step. So we have chairs and we tick the box of 2 different continents, but we would like to really have the full Northern Hemisphere. And interestingly enough, I think the next challenge is going to be how do we manage the time zones across that full 360 degrees around the globe. We've got researchers in Japan, Korea, Russia, who will be working with the Pacific salmon with people in the Western North America. And then we've got the Atlantic side. And it's going to be, I think we're going to cross that bridge when we come to it, really. I think it's just going to be a case of maybe I don't think we want to split into 2 different interest groups, but maybe having 2 aspects of the same interest group might be a way to do it. But I've seen some comments in this plenary so far about struggles with time zones, and I feel that's going to be a real issue going forward. And I wanted, something else I wanted to ask. Oh, that's true. So yeah, it's quite a niche interest group that I'm creating, and I wanted to ask you guys. You've got hundreds or 100+ interest groups just now. What's the goal? What's the target? How many interest groups do you want to kind of have? Is there, or is it just kind of, or are niche interest groups the place you want to go, and then have lots and then have a big network and fill in those edges of that network? Yeah, what do you guys see the future of RDA in the next 10 years, say?
That's a really good question.
Some good questions there.
I mean, I think if I just maybe can take that, Bridget, and then you can add to it if you want, because I think that the whole idea is that this is community driven and organic, right? So we actually have structures and processes, obviously in place to support the community, but really the growth is wherever the community wants to take it. So we don't really specify any goals in terms of like numbers of groups or areas that they should focus on, because this is really your community. Yeah, the RDA is for the community by the community. So we welcome any type of topic, let's say. And we often do have discussions, particularly myself, because I'm a liaison to the technical advisory board, on harmonization, because one thing that obviously we want to be careful of, that's one of our guiding principles, is that we harmonize where we can and we don't duplicate efforts. So what you will find is you get some groups that are working very, very specifically on a topic, but then you might have multiple groups that are overlapping somewhat and sharing some synergies. And that's something that we do want to be careful of, because we don't want to just create new groups for the creation of the new group's sake, let's say. So that's why we do have quite a rigorous process in terms of community review, and why the case statements and charters and agreements go through a review with the technical advisory board and the council, just to make sure that what we are working towards is something that is novel and innovative and brings something new to the community. So technically, all these groups should be bringing something and working, building upon existing work within the Research Data Alliance. So as long as that is fulfilled, we don't really have any, you know, specific limitations or criteria. So I don't know if that answered the question, that final part of your question. Bridget, do you want to add anything to that?
No, that's great. Thanks, Connie. I mean, you know, as far as the interest groups are concerned, while the discussions are continuing, you know, those groups stay alive, and the discussions may develop in such a way that actually working groups are then created from that, okay, which then have their lifetime of more or less 18 months, because they have to produce the recommendations or guidelines. But, you know, while there's interest coming in from the community, the groups are created and stay alive.
And maybe just going back to your comment about the challenge of time zones, and I don't know, Ryan or Athena, if you want to jump in, because obviously you're facilitating these working groups across different time zones, but I know it is a challenge for the RDA, and one of the criteria for creating groups is that we have chairs that at least span, as Bridget said in her answer earlier, 2 different continents. So the idea is that possibly, if it's possible, that you can host meetings across different time zones. And it's also one reason why in this particular virtual plenary setting, we offer this opportunity to have a repeat session that has to cover a different time zone, because we understand the importance of obviously it's one of our core values is to be as global as possible, but it is difficult to try and bring members together across different time zones. Ryan, I don't know if you want to add to that.
Yeah, not much to add to that. So, but yeah, it is a challenge. And there's a certain amount of planning you can do, and then you hit the wall of some people having to stay up till 2 o'clock in the morning or get up at 3 in the morning, which is unfortunate. But I mean, depending on the kind of frequency of in our case with the working groups who we're working with, depending on the frequency of meetings, it's that people aren't getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning every kind of once every week or every 2 weeks. It's much less frequently than that. As part of the Tiger project as well, we're trying to develop ways of just facilitating that sort of asynchronous work. So obviously, I mean, there are times where people need it works for people, and it's more beneficial for people to be around the same table, either virtual or real. But then obviously we're trying to find ways of getting the kind of asynchronous work to be as sort of as impactful and as fruitful as possible as well. Graham, I'm sure you'll find this with your colleagues as well. I mean, you mentioned that you're kind of spread across the Northern Hemisphere. There is times you kind of do have to sort of to get the work done. It does require a bit of sacrifice, especially if you are going to in the long term get those benefits of that kind of international collaboration. You will be running up against the wall of time zones, unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely have. Yeah, thanks. That does kind of answer the questions. And yeah, I think at the moment I think we're actually going to look to the RDA to help us engage a lot more with our colleagues in the Eastern, so like I say, Japan, Korea, because so far it's been very Western, Europe and North America focused, our discussions, and I hope that RDA will be able to help us with that. That'd be great.
We'll do our best.
Yes, great to have you on board, Graham. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from anybody else?
I'm just checking, don't see any hands up.
No.
Well, we've either covered all the questions and given all the information that everybody needs, or we've totally confused everybody. So I hope it's not the latter, but please do feel free to contact any members of the RDA Secretariat with any questions that you have.
On that note, I will just put our contact details in the chat, just in case anybody does want to follow up. That's good. And thank you, Halford, for your comment earlier as well, that newbie impressions after day one, hard to get a full sense of scale and context of everything that's going on, but people have been super friendly. I think that's the main thing, and Bridget's alluded to that earlier, is that it is overwhelming, but if you do have any questions, don't be afraid to shout up and ask during the sessions, or also to email us, because we understand what it is like to try and navigate the RDA at first. Thank you, Francoise. Yes, there is a plenary session organised by the Oceania region. So please check that out in the programme if that would be something of interest to you. So if nothing is coming through, maybe we can finish a bit early. I'd like to, Halford, I see your face now on TU Delft's library in the background, which is really nice to see.
I thought it looked better than my home office, but
Yeah, that looks quite an impressive library there. Very.
It is very nice.
it's a lovely place to work, I must say.
It is.
It does look that, yeah.
Would you like to say something, Halford, about your experience so far?
No, I think it's mostly in the comment. There's a lot to navigate in terms of, it's a complex meeting and organization dealing with complex reality. However, many of us have different aspects to our lives and careers as well. I can see a lot of ways in which continuing to be involved is going to be beneficial, and hopefully to the community I'm in as well.
Mm. That's great. And one thing I will say, I mean, obviously this is a virtual plenary, so we are limited in terms of, like, we can host these sessions for newcomers, and hopefully you get to know new people in the networking sessions and during the breakouts. But one thing that I will stress is that there's nothing quite like the hybrid plenaries that we have at the RDA in terms of sharing that personal context with people, because I think that does go quite a long way in terms of learning and sharing experiences when you actually go to these physical meetings, if it's possible. I mean, obviously the next one is Costa Rica in November, so we did share a link on plenaries earlier on if you want to have a look at what's coming up. And then obviously next year, as part of International Data Week, we have a plenary in Brisbane. I do think the face-to-face aspects, if this is your first experience of a plenary, of course it's a positive one, hopefully, but the hybrid plenaries are also something quite special for the Research Data Alliance, because as I think it was Francoise said, the same people come back year upon year, and then you get to know things, and I like
informal interactions as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think that another thing that Francoise said was that it's difficult, but it's worth it, is something that I can vouch for, because I remember my first plenary, I was really overwhelmed and quite scared in some of the sessions, because I didn't actually know anything about research data management at the time, and I just knew about my own personal experience. But it's a marathon and not a sprint, in the sense of the more times you do it and come back, the more you pick up and learn, and there's no silly question. You can ask, what you like, and hopefully you can learn something new from all the different sessions that you go to. But it's the personal connections, I think, that I find most important, and getting to know people.
Yes, what I can add to that, if I may, Connie, is that WOVA is really good, because if there is someone you want to talk to after a session, you can contact the person through WOVA, going to participants and saying hi, explaining why. And it's a very good way to get in touch, even if you are not in the same room or in the same place. Mm-hmm. So WOVA is a powerful tool to have a connection, to build connections, even on a fully virtual plenary. Don't hesitate to do that. I think people are happy to get in touch with new people, even if these are older people and you are younger and so on. Don't hesitate. It's the RDA spirit.
Thank you, Francoise. I'm pretty pleased that you gave such positive feedback on Hoover. This is the platform that we have been using since plenary 18. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Alex. Plenary 18, that's when I joined the RDA. And the reason we are not changing this platform, because it's, we believe, very user-friendly, and it's very, very easy to navigate, communicate with any attendees, whether it's a hybrid plenary or virtual. All attendees have access to it, and obviously exchanging different documents and links. So yes, please feel free to use it if you haven't yet.
Thanks, Irina.
Oh, I don't see any other questions, Connie.
No, nothing else coming through in the chat. So we can start to wrap up now, but thank you everybody for coming along. I've really enjoyed seeing you all. I hope that this newcomer session has been useful, and I'm sorry if it was a bombardment of information, but if you do have questions, please do follow up with us. We'd be more than happy to answer them. And enjoy the rest of the plenary.
Bye, everybody. Thanks
Bye,
for coming.
everybody.
Bye, bye, bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye.
Thank you. Thanks.
Everybody.